Welcome back to Behind the Vocals. This week we have the absolute honor and privilege of being joined by Billy Powers of Wretched. Such a fantastic conversation. We chat about everything from the vocal stuff he does, routines, getting into it, how he started, all that, his gateway bands into metal, to inspirations, lyrics, and even concept albums. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed filming it and chatting with Billy. So without further ado, let's get into it. We are joined by the one and only Mr. Billy Powers of Wretched. Sir, how you doing?
Doing quite solid today. How are you, man?
I am doing well, man. Thank you so much for giving us your time and coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it, man.
I saw you. I saw your interview with Tim from X Within the Ruins and what he's doing now, which is freaking solid. And I was just like, man, I hope he hits me up for this. And then you added me on Instagram, and then I followed you back, and then there we are.
Yeah, Tim is such a good dude, man.
Dude,
I've known him for a long time now, since 2010, 2009, something like, I don't know, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
She's a Liar. When I was in She's a Liar.
Oh yeah. I remember that being brought up when he first joined Within the Ruins, because we had toured with them with their original vocalist, and then shakeups happen, and then Tim joined, and yeah, man, it was solid. I think I had maybe met him prior to that, but it was always a fun time touring with those boys. It was so sick.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. It was when I met him, it was She's a Liar and Within the Ruins on tour together. So it was like what would eventually happen, and so it's just it was really cool. It was their previous vocalist, I guess the original vocalist, right? Because they had one before Tim.
I think so. The one before Tim. Yeah, the one that was on Creature.
Yeah. But yeah, Tim's awesome. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. So how you been though? How's everything been going? Life? I know you mentioned you're in the film industry now, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've after COVID happened, I lost my job in the service industry up in North Carolina, and I was going through some relationship-ish at the end of 2019 into 2020. Ended up love my dad to death, but I ended up getting stuck with him for a year when it was only supposed to be like a month or two to get my feet back on the ground after that separation. And then after a year of partying too much and doing a whole lot of nothing but stuff I shouldn't be doing, it started to wear on me. So I reached out to my buddy Thorin, who I had lived with previously in Charlotte for like 5 to 6 years, and his girlfriend Jordan. And I was just like, hey man, I know you've been trying to get me down there. So if you can hook me up with a gig, that would be so sick. And within months, he had me on a show, and I moved down here, and it has been such a breath of fresh air. It's the home I never knew.
That's awesome.
I had, yeah.
That's such a cool gig to get into. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah. And it worked out perfectly too, because I'm in the location department, and it's all logistics. It's dealing with people. Like if I got to go into a church to speak to their representatives so that we can utilize part of their parking for our base camp or our crew parking, stuff like that, and catering. The 11 years that I worked in retail definitely helps prepare me for what I'm doing now with this. So it's just, I fell into the right spot.
That's awesome, man.
On the film side of things. So it's so rad to be in the film industry and within the music industry, because they're both such fantastic industries to be a part of.
Is there any similarities between them? As someone who's done both and been...
I mean, in the sense of like the logistics and, the routing, knowing our travel pattern, and like within the film industry, it's, just getting everywhere, everybody that's part of the crew that has no idea what we actually do, and thinks that we're just sitting around with our thumbs up our asses the whole time. It's just like, you have no idea what happened to me up here getting you here. It's great though, man. Like, honestly, the film industry, it's the best job I've ever had. And granted, I've only had maybe 5 jobs since I started working at the age of 16, and I'm 38 now. So, I mean, it's a testament to my commitment, if you will. I definitely strive for longevity in everything that I do.
Awesome.
So,
heck yeah, man. Well, what I like to do to start every interview is I like to ask, or just to kind of give you the floor to tell people about yourself, kind of introduce yourself and give people a little bit of a backstory and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. I'm Billy Powers. I was born in 1985 in beautiful Mesa, Arizona. I lived there for the first 10 years of my life. We actually went to Albuquerque, New Mexico the year before we left Arizona to scope out a spot to live there. And that didn't really pan out, and then my parents realized at that time, because I was 9 years old, that it'd probably be better to push us farther to the East Coast, so that we could basically be in the dead center of our family in Florida from my mother's side, and then family up north in Massachusetts and Rhode Island from my father's side.
Okay.
And yeah, man, that's what got me out west, or out east. Sorry, geography. And yeah, that's what put me in a position to be where I'm at today, and I can't imagine life having been any other way for myself.
All right, nice. And then you joined Wretched in 2008. Is that right?
7, 8. Yeah, I think
Okay.
8 is probably the right year for
Okay.
that. Yeah, they were a band called Ensigns Forgotten prior to my joining.
Okay.
I'd gone through a slew of vocalists, unfortunately, just trying to find the right fit. I was in another band in the Concord, Charlotte area of North Carolina called Chime, CHYME for anybody that cares. And we had played some shows together. Steven had posted on MySpace, or I think he had posted on MySpace, that they were looking for a new vocalist and anybody that wanted to try out. So I sent him a message and I was just like, hey man, you need to let me try out. And he was just like, are you serious? And I was just like, fuck yes, I'm serious. Because I mean, dude, Black Dahlia's Nocturnal had just come out.
Oh.
I mean, my band Chime, we were like, it was such rad music. It was like super bouncy, but like grindy at the same time. It was solid grindcore. And then Nocturnal came out and I was just like, man, I really want to do something like this. And I knew that those boys were doing stuff like that. They were doing that melodic death metal. And that's why I reached out to Steven on that. He gave me the track, which later became The Descent off the Exodus of Autonomy, because he said that it was the hardest one to write to. I was racking my brain trying to figure out what to do with it. And the more and more I listened to it and ingrained it in my memory, I realized that I had some lyrics for another song that I was going to do with Chime called Damnation. And I just took those and I was just like, does this work? And it was pretty much to a T, a perfect fit.
That's awesome.
And had to alter some things, during the demo process, add some phrasing and add some little verses here and there, tighten some things up and whatnot, as you normally have to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that became it. And then they took me to a cookout. I don't know if you're familiar with Cookout.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
You are. Yeah, you're in Tennessee.
Right.
And yeah, they took me to a cookout, and Steven looked at me and he was just like, I got to tell you, you're not going to be the new vocalist of Ensigns Forgotten. And I felt my shoulders drop and my face drop. And Joel, who was in the band at the time, he was like, he told Steven not to do this. And then then Steven like hurried up, because I think he saw the anger or something in my eyes of like, you're wasting my time. And he was like, you're going to be the new vocalist for Wretched. And I was just like, fuck. And then that was the first time I heard that was going to be the name. And I was just like, sold on it.
Hell yeah, man. And then you guys, you did 2 albums, right? Or did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did the Exodus of Autonomy, the purple one.
Yeah.
And Beyond the Gate, the orange one, if you will.
Pretty sure, I feel like we played a show with you. It's been forever.
You look absolutely like, you look familiar. You look like somebody I have absolutely met face to face before.
It would have been at the Muse in Nashville.
Yep. It was at the Muse in Nashville.
Yep, I know the Muse. Fun fact, I love telling, I actually told Tim this too, because we played, I think, the multiple times, or different times we played with Tim, I think it was all at the Muse also.
Yeah.
But The Muse is now a Domino's.
No way.
Yeah, the Muse. It's so funny. Like you drive by and you're like, "There's the Muse." Well, now it's a Domino's.
Is that sex shop still up the road?
Oh yeah, 100%. Domino's, sex shop right behind it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Pizza and
Yeah.
porn.
Sex shop is never going to go out of business.
That was always like a popular spot. Bands would get there and it's like, sweet, we're here. There's a sex shop. And then everybody would always have to go check out the sex shop. It's just, it's how it goes. I mean, tour life, right?
It's the way you do it. Yeah, we did. I at least did it a couple times. Twice there in Nashville, and I don't even remember where else. Somewhere farther out west.
Nice. All right, so to the vocal part of it, how long have you been doing vocals, sir?
Probably since about late 18-year-old me to 19. I started, like, me and my buddy Craig Jordan in high school. We got the idea to start a band, and we started it right after we got out of high school. We started enlisting other people that we knew. The last piece was finding the drummer. We found one. He ended up dipping out on us. And then we found another one, Anthony Canarosi. He just shredded those drums to death, and it was beautiful. But yeah, I've been doing it since 19, so probably about 2004.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What inspired you to become a vocalist?
Okay, so a Goofy movie.
Okay,
that made me want to be a rock star, just because it's so freaking fun, and it just looked like a fun time. And then just listening to other bands, like, I used to want, I know, just listening to other bands like James Lynn Straight from Snot. I don't know if you're familiar with Snot. Yes. Get Some is like one of my top 5 albums of all time for sure. Just the way that he like sings, and the way, like, even when with his screaming, he can carry a tune with it. It really made me want to strive for something like that. And it just, being a frontman just seemed like the right idea for me, despite how timid I was growing up in middle, high school, and elementary school.
Was it hard to learn to become a frontman, being timid? Because there is a difference between being a vocalist and being a frontman. It's kind of like
Oh yeah, totally. I was a vocalist first, for sure. The first show we had ever played as Chime, I didn't take the microphone off the stand. I stood in one spot the whole time, and afterwards, one of my then buddies in high school, Mikey, he was just like, "Dude, you gotta just take these people. You gotta grab them by the head." And I was just like, "I can't do it." But it just came with time. The more and more Chime played out, the better it got. I got to the point where I could throw my body around and I can get really into it, but I'd have to have my back facing the crowd. And then we became a 3-piece as that band. And that's when things started to get a little more violent within the music, a lot faster paced and more grindy for sure. And that's when I started to let loose a little bit more, and then begin to face the crowd and,
all right,
just do the fun stuff and actually take them on.
It can definitely be terrifying being a front man, especially like if you have an instrument, you can kind of like hide behind your instrument, guitar, drums, you're behind the kit, but vocalist, you are front and center. Everybody's listening to you and watching you. So it can be very nerve wracking for sure.
Yeah. It's quite funny because, I was absolutely the kid in school that didn't want to do his report in front of the class. No public speaking, nothing like that. I would have rather said I didn't do it, even if I had, just so I didn't have to get up in front of 20 other kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, how,
but
I mean, like how, like, cruel, like, as gym class heroes, as cruel as school children, as cruel as school children can be. It really just, I mean, that pretty much says it all. Like, I didn't want to be in front of them. I was out of the popular clique, if so to speak. I was definitely the freaky kid wearing the Jinkos and the kickwares and the extra large t-shirts at 110 pounds as a teenager. And I didn't need to be swimming in my clothes like I was, but that probably played a role in, me not, wanting to speak in front of them because of the way that they
Yeah.
treated me and my group of people.
Yeah.
But now we're the cool kids.
Yeah, this is true. Or maybe we're the cool kids all along and no one just knew.
That's it. That's absolutely it.
So, Chime was a grindcore. Grindcore, right? Is that what?
It was grind. It was along the lines of grindy metal. I wouldn't say like grindcore in the vein of like Daughters or Locust or anything like that. But I mean, maybe stuff like Ed Gein.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how was it going from that to death metal? Was it kind of a weird transition, or did it kind of just flow naturally?
To be honest, I found it to be a relief. I found the music to be much easier to write to. I enjoyed it immensely.
Okay.
And plus, like I said, man, I knew that that's the style that I wanted to go with. So I was ready to take it on and to let my doubts just fade away.
I love that you said the Black Dahlia Murder album, because that so good, so freaking good.
Yeah, it's still front to back an amazing piece of work.
Oh yeah. All right. So before vocals, did you play any other instruments?
When I was 12, I tried to play bass.
Okay.
I got a Fender Precision, and a little like 25 Hartkey bass amp. Prior to that, my father tried to teach me drums because he played drums when he was younger.
Okay.
My coordination and my rhythm is, for lack of a better term, white boy rhythm. I don't have it, so it didn't work, and it frustrated him, almost similar to the time where he was trying to teach me how to drive stick. And we were in my high school parking lot, and he ended up smoking pretty much a pack of cigarettes within a 45-minute period, and then said, "We're going home." Neither of those ended up working out. And then I told my parents, I think I just want to be a frontman and a vocalist. And they laughed at me because my father is absolutely tone deaf. And I was just like, well, fortunately, I'm not going to be doing clean singing. So I think I got it.
Nice. Very nice. So how did you learn how to do vocals?
So I would go to Radio Shack. I would get the crappy like $20 microphones and hook those into my Hartkey amp. I used to practice with one of my friends, Sean Marshall. And we would just kind of take turns. We did stuff like System of a Down, because Toxicity had just come out. Linkin Park, because Hybrid Theory had just come out. Freaking Taproot, because Gift had just come out. We were circulating through those things and just like taking turns. And then Slipknot put out, I guess Iowa had come out. And so I was doing stuff like Left Behind, and then my buddy Craig, he would come over and, we would just get tuned, smoked up, and, then he would do it. And then, it was just a fun time. So that was that. But I do recall one day from coming home from high school I don't remember exactly why, but I was super heated. I was super pissed off. Something happened. And I just put on the first Slipknot album, and I had already memorized all the lyrics. So I just ran through the entire thing, like front to back, and that got it out of me. And it broke for lack of a better word, broke my vocal cords into being able to handle it. It was all predominantly high stuff. I didn't really get into low vocals, the gutturals, until I heard He Is Legend's I Am Hollywood, randomly enough. And I was just like, wow. And then that, made me appreciate the lows in like Between the Buried and Me more, and everything else that followed, like I remember hearing Black Dahlia when Unhallowed came out, and I was just like, this is really cool, but it's a little too intense for me. The lows, I don't think I dig. And same thing with Miasma when that came out. His Legends brought me into the fray on the guttural low vocals.
Okay, nice.
Because they just threw them in randomly, and it was beautiful.
So since we were talking about other bands, I want to know, what were your gateway bands to get you into metal? So we all know there's like the bands that kind of like, you kind of like test the waters a little bit. You're like, okay, this is a little harder, and then it gets a little harder, and then you full send and you're listening to Black Dahlia and
Yeah.
stuff like it.
Yeah,
It's a progression
absolutely.
usually.
Yeah, so like pretty much like any of the music that I listened to while I was growing up, like between birth and like maybe pretty much 10 years old before we moved out to North Carolina, I was into a lot of stuff like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, all the stuff my father listened to. The Rolling Stones, I never really got into until later. I gained an appreciation for them. And then my mother was like huge into stuff like Bon Jovi and Def Leppard, Warrant. So Bon Jovi for sure, Slippery When Wet only for me. Def Leppard, I'll take it all. And then when I finally started getting myself into music, it started with watching an MTV presentation where Green Day was promoting Dookie. So I fell in love with Green Day. After that, it was No Doubt. And then it was 311. And then I started getting into stuff like Korn and Incubus and Soulfly, Head PE, just stuff of that nature.
Okay.
And then I started getting into Marilyn Manson, which is seemingly a taboo now, but I was 12. It's okay. And then I just started to gravitate towards the heavier stuff. Like even when my friend showed me Snot, I thought that was a little too intense for me because I was in 7th grade. I was 12 years old. And then by the time I was in 8th grade, that's when I got hooked to it. And then freshman year of high school rolls around. My friend Craig shows up wearing a Slipknot t-shirt because he saw them at Ozfest 2000. And I was just like, who's that? And then in the days of Columbia House music, I got my 25 free CDs. The self-titled Slipknot was one of them. And I remember just putting that on and listening to it front to back. And my dad saying thank you after it ended. And I said, it's not over yet. Because I put it right back on. And I think that's what really got me into the heavier stuff. Okay. And then, then Black Dahlia came around with Nocturnal specifically. And that's what broke me into the death metal stuff.
Nice. Okay. It's always an interesting question to see the progression, how it all goes.
Yeah. And it's funny, man. Honestly, I hardly listen to a ton of metal. So it's weird that I'm in the position I'm in, being that person, because on tour back in 2008, 9, and 10, whenever I would drive, I'd be putting it on stuff like Metric and Rilo Kiley and Isley and The Deer Hunter, just stuff of that nature that you wouldn't really expect. And then the other guys would drive, and then it would just be Megadeth and Lamb of God and all the metal stuff.
Do you think that helped you when writing with patterns and stuff? And the reason I ask is this because I know if you a lot of people say that if you listen to a lot of metal, obviously you're going to be influenced by different styles, different things, right? So if you're that's all you're taking in, you're going to be somewhat ripping off different patterns, different things. You're like, oh, I'm going to do this. But if you don't listen to it,
you're going to start emulating what you hear.
Yeah.
Versus, just breaking away from that and just doing whatever you want to do. Write what you want. Just have fun with it.
Yeah.
Don't try to sound like everybody else, because when you do that, you're in that pocket, and then it's tough to break out of.
Yeah.
Because then people are just going to compare you to other vocalists or other bands, and that's not what you want.
Yeah.
You want to stand out above the crowd.
All right. So when you first started doing vocals, when you would plug into your amp and you would scream Slipknot and all that stuff, what were some early mistakes you made when you were learning and kind of getting it down?
I being too hard on it, pushing too hard. And that's not really something that I learned that I was doing wrong until actually performing on stage. And you can literally exhaust yourself within the first 30 seconds of a song if you're not owning it like, and reserving that energy. You don't have to. You can just walk around and do vocals like you're talking. It's hard to break away from the wrong way of doing it when you've been doing it for so long, and then try. It's basically like relearning at that point.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like that's everyone pushing too much and stuff is kind of like the usual thing, blowing out your voice, not being able to talk, all that stuff, because less is more, pretty much.
Absolutely.
All right. So was there ever an aha moment? Was it when you were performing, you're like, okay, maybe I don't need to do and go as crazy and push this much at the start? Maybe I need to reel it back.
I think I pretty much, I had it down by the time I joined Wretched, how to not ruin myself so easily. I think my major aha moment actually was this past October when we played First in Flight Fest out in Greensboro, North Carolina. I recall us going through our first song of the set, and I did the whole body bangs, the head banging, everything. And the first song finished, and I turned around and looked Marshall dead in the eyes, and I was just like, I'm done. And he was just like, I don't know what to tell you, man. and we played like for an hour too, and only 3 to 4 minutes had gone by, so it was devastating. And then when we just went on this last little tour that we did back in May, I didn't do all of that. I took it all in stride, had a lot more fun with it doing it that way too, because you're conserving all that energy. And it was just, that was my major aha moment.
Okay.
Unfortunately, at very late in the game, but also it had been 14 years since I had performed a full set.
Yeah.
So I definitely needed to learn that lesson quick, like versus going out and learning it on the road.
Okay. All right. Nice. Do you have a routine before you do vocals, and does it change depending on different variables? Like if it's just a one-off show, are you in the studio? If you're on tour, if you're under the weather, anything like that? Do you do anything in particular before you perform?
I've started doing a lot of like throat stretches, like pulling my chin all the way up, just making sure to stretch out all the muscles, stretching out my body in general too, because you're gonna need to be more fluid as a vocalist, because you're pacing, you're walking back and forth, you're doing the damn thing. And it's just really stretching out the body, stretching out the throat, doing standard vocal warm-ups like the AEIOU, all that fun stuff, in like a melodic tune. And then bouncing. I like to bounce from like really low to really high, and then go a little bit above that really low, and then right below that really high, and then meet in the middle, and then kind of reverse it. I like to do what I recall Trevor from Black Dahlia calling bees in the mouth, where you do the bzzz, and just like do the AEIOU stuff like that as well.
Okay.
And that vibrates the vocal cords a bit, warms them up a little bit more. I'm definitely in the future planning to never not have throat coat tea. I didn't actually ever drink that until after this last run, and I found it at a Target, and I was just like, I did not know I could buy this locally. I've heard some horror stories about it and how it tastes terrible, but I mean, it tastes like black licorice. I love black licorice, so I'm down with it.
Nice. Okay. So do you?
And also, I'm trying to stop smoking too. Like anything.
Yeah.
Just if edibles, cool.
Okay.
The smoke hurts.
Indeed. Okay. So that's a good segue. Vocal care. Do you do anything? I know you just mentioned the tea. Is there anything else you do to help the throat and the vocal cords and all that?
I mean, the tea now is absolutely going to play a major role in my vocal care.
Do you put honey or anything in it, or is it just straight?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't mind it straight, but the honey never hurts. It's delicious, and it's good for the throat too. I know you said before, people going hoarse from pushing too much. But even if you're not pushing too much, you can still endure that. So it's it's sometimes very important to take that vow of silence after a show.
Yeah.
Hang back, stick in the van, just shut up for a little bit, because the worst thing that you can do literally is, which is what I found out at Big Texas Metal Fest, is when you go into the big crowd of people, there's all that loud music going on and people talk to you. You're literally yelling just so that they can hear you. And it's so terrible after you've just done what you've done to your voice on stage.
Yeah, it's like a big no-no out there. You yell for an hour and then you yell more, not knowing it, with no technique, just yelling, talking, and
absolutely staying hydrated as well, drinking more water than a human should, limiting your caffeine intake because that can constrict your vocal cords. And simple stuff like that. Like, tea for sure, caffeine free. I love coffee, but I definitely I let myself not have any of that on the road.
Okay.
Say for maybe like a couple coffee energy drinks, but that's during travel time.
When you have to drive and stuff, all that good.
Yeah, for sure. You need an upper for sure.
Oh, yeah. How do you like touring, being on the road? Do you enjoy it? Because it's rough.
Absolutely.
I know people are. You get the glamour. You're like, oh, you're on tour, you're traveling, but it is awesome. But it's a double-edged sword because it also can be pretty brutal. Like, there's long drives.
It can absolutely be taxing on your sanity, your mental health for sure. I think now, back in 2008 through 2010 when I was touring, it was great. It was fun. My favorite thing about it was being in a different city every day, waking up in a different city every day, getting to the show, meeting new people, talking to just brand new people every single day. But I will say that this past run that we did back in May, I think it was more fun than I ever had during that collection of 3 years back in the early 2000s. And when we got back after our final show in Greensboro, we went back to Stevens, parted ways, said our goodbyes. And when I was driving back to my dad's place, because whenever I travel up there to visit, I'll usually stay with him. Driving back to his place, reality started to kick in, and I was just like, and then I realized how much of a dream just being on tour felt like. Like, I was just like, oh fuck, I don't want to be back here. I want to go to another city. I want to play again. It's great for me now. I think it's much better for my mental health personally to be on the road, no matter the struggles, no matter how taxing it is. Because I just know that when I'm out there, it's a beautiful time. I'm with guys that I fucking love, and I wouldn't want to not ever do it again, for sure.
And like you said, waking up in a different city and seeing things and making memories and stuff it's priceless things, stuff you get to experience and do is awesome. And you're playing a show, you're playing metal and music every night. In a different city, different crowds, and it's a blast. It's rough, but it is a blast.
And it's wonderful to see the repeat faces too. Like, just this past tour, I mean, I saw so many people that I totally forgot even existed, and I saw them, and like, just I felt my face light up, and just like, holy shit, and just embrace people, and it's such a solid experience. Such a solid experience.
So tours in the future, you guys planning more, or can't?
1000%.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get you in trouble saying stuff.
I can't say what's happening. I mean, the most I can say right now is that we are playing Metal Injection Festival in September in Brooklyn, New York. We have some stuff being planned around that.
Okay.
Past that, I can confidently say that we have nothing in the books, but we will have plenty in the books moving forward.
Okay. So when you're in New York, it means you get to hit up Tim. Tell Tim to come.
Yeah.
Say hi.
I'm sure. Yeah. He's absolutely going to be there.
So hopefully on these tours that will hopefully be in the future, Nashville will be one of them.
I don't doubt that one bit.
Nice.
And hopefully that'll happen much sooner than later.
That would be sick. You guys are on Metal Blade right now?
Now we are on Metal Blade. Yeah.
How is
That
Metal
was
Blade?
the
Because
that
that
was
is
the
a dude. That is like one of the, especially like whenever I was first getting into metal. That is like one of the labels that was way up there for me. It's like Metal Blade just had so many amazing bands, and their roster was always fantastic. How has it been being with them?
It's amazing. That was ultimately the goal back in 2008 before we put out the Exodus of Autonomy and got signed to Victory Records. But that label no longer exists, so it's okay for me to say that Metal Blade is miles and miles and miles above the experience that we had with Victory.
I've not heard good things about Victory.
No, you haven't.
Not at
I
all
don't
from
think
people.
anybody.
And that it
I don't
sucks. 'Cause
think
Victory was a
anybody.
big name. They had a lot of.
It was
There was a
huge,
lot of
yeah.
big bands on Victory, but I've
a lot
not
of great
heard good things from word of mouth.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing. It could have been a lot more enjoyable than it was, but I mean, it was just we were looked at as a paycheck.
I don't think Tim and Joe and them were very fond of Victory either.
Nah, I don't know. I don't think they were either.
I think it's a general consensus.
I don't think any of us. Yeah, I don't think any of us are still very fond with them, unfortunately. I mean, there were great people that worked for them.
Yeah.
There really were. But overall, the experience now is it's a breath of fresh air, man. Like, we didn't know that it could be so cool.
Okay, dude, that's
so
that's an awesome label, man. Huge congrats.
Yeah, dude.
How?
Yeah, they're super dope. They're super dope. Yeah, go ahead.
How long have you been with Metal Blade? When did you sign with them?
We signed in, I think July or May of 2022.
Okay, nice. So a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, man. That's super awesome. I'm excited to see what you guys do.
Yeah, man. We're just trying to get the ball rolling. We tracked our new album back in March, April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who'd you go to, or did you do it all yourselves?
Marshall tracks the majority of our stuff.
Okay.
Right now, it's in the mixing stages, getting very close to the end of it.
Okay.
We've got a guy named Johan Meyer doing it. He does front of house and has produced some others, some albums for Gojira.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he's got his hands on it. The direction he has taken with it is astounding. It's music to our ears. So it's fantastic.
So Marshall did all the tracking and everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that's like kind of how it goes now. Because back, you rewind back to 08, 09 and stuff when you're doing it. The general thing was just go to a studio. You go to a studio.
Yeah.
You're there for however long, you record, and then you wait, mixing, mastering, all that. Now it's pretty much do it yourself.
Yeah.
With all the technology and everything, and then you send off and someone mixes and masters. And
because before, I mean, the two albums that I did with Wretched, we went to Jamie King out in Winston-Salem. And I'm sure if anybody knows BT Bam, they know his name. But this was a very personal experience this time, because it was just myself, Andrew, Steven, and Marshall in a little house out at the beach, and we spent just under 2 weeks taking turns getting through everything. Andrew and I got to make it a little bit of a competition, because I was just he had been tracking his bass for so long, and then I started tracking vocals, and then I started catching up to him, and then I surpassed him, and I was just like, hey man, look, I'm gonna get finished before you. And he's just like, fuck no. And he made it a competition. And then he ended up ultimately tracking everything that he needed to before me, because I had to go back to Stevens and do some extra stuff and rework some things with Marshall.
Okay.
After we had all come back from the beach.
Nice.
But that's okay. Andrew can have it. Andrew can have it. I'll get him next time.
Friendly competition within the band. You gotta love it.
Oh yeah, man. It's beautiful. Yeah.
All right. So since we're talking about albums, lyrics. That's where I want to go now with vocals and everything. Where do you pull from lyrics? Do you use conceptual stuff? Do you use personal experience? Do you blend them? Do you have a preference?
Throughout high school, I used to always write lyrics for the band that I always wanted, and it was always like stuff that I was going through personally. Like, oh, she broke my heart. I'm so sad. Blah blah blah. What am I going to do without her? That's not me anymore. I don't want to put stuff like that out there. The first album, Exodus of Autonomy, every single song is a story unto itself. So, like, it's like horror, like a horror short story. Fetal Consumption is about the Roman Caesar Caligula and the story that he impregnated his sister, killed her, cut it out, and ate it. And yeah, I mean, I pull from fantasy, I pull from horror. I mean, with Beyond the Gate, then I started to pull from, because I had just finished watching Full Metal Alchemist 2003 series. So I wrote a couple songs that were inspired heavily by that. And then after that, I started to think, I was just like, well, this is cool, but what if this other thing in my mind is going on in that same universe? And then I was just like, what if it wasn't in that universe at all? So then I started up with the concept of what Beyond the Gate ultimately came out to be, which is about sorcery, alchemy, the conjuring of jinn, just evils that this world does not see.
Okay.
And yeah, that's pretty much where I ended it. And I always planned on the next album being a continuation from that, but I left the band and didn't get to see that come to fruition, unfortunately, until I was asked to rejoin. And I wrote some story stuff for an EP that is yet to be released. Sorry for telling people that, boys. It's okay. They don't know what it is. So I wrote a little story for that. And then I was just like, this is really freaking cool. I put it in the same universe as the Beyond the Gate story, but back in time. And then when I started writing the lyrics for this new album, I wanted to continue the story that I had from the EP, but the lyrics, or the what I wrote for the first track I wrote for, the start of the story, it pulled me back even farther than the EP content. So this basically, think about it in the scheme of this being 1,000 years before the events of Beyond the Gate.
Wow.
Where the talisman of the story in Beyond the Gate is actually fused. And without giving too much detail, there's 4 characters. One, the main character named Malus. And each of those 4 characters, their heart is basically a talisman. And they are sent to this planet to help it grow, to nourish it, to lead the people to become civilized people, to grow and, be prosperous. One core character doesn't really see things in the same way. He's kind of the runt of the litter, thinks he has something to prove, is easily jealous, and in turn becomes easily manipulated by what he finds in the home, so to speak, that he goes to. Because all the 4 characters, we've got Callisto and Fragore, they go to a town to help the people of this city called Purity. Volpotest, he goes to think Waterworld, think of a community on the sea called the Royal Body. He goes to them and basically kind of getting everybody acclimatized to their arrival. Malus himself, he goes to a different spot, which ends up not being a very good spot. And he's simply put possessed and starts doing some real fucked up shit.
Okay. So
yeah.
Has this been something you've been working on since the other album?
No. Well,
Did you just start this recently? Because this is very in depth. That's why I'm asking. Like, this is a full-fledged.
Yeah. Well, so I've been kind of working on this part of the story for the past 2 years. It started with the EP lyrical content, and then I wanted to expand on that. And then, so I took it back further and then told the story of what got Malus to this point of the EP. And the next album after this, God willing, will be a direct continuation.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been always chipping away at different ideas, always taking notes from what pops into my mind. I've got so many different stories that I want to turn into like graphic novels or maybe even
That
like
was
a
the next
TV
question.
series.
Was
Yeah.
the, not only like as far as, since you have like this full-fledged story for the lyrics, is there any, have you ever wrote like a short story, like a book, like anything other than just something from musical? Like,
Not anything other than musical. Now Beyond the Gate, I did do a little bit of backstory that we started to trickle out on our own personal site. It didn't really catch. People didn't really, I don't know if they didn't seem to care about it or if we just kind of lost the interest in it because of whatever was going on at the time. But no, man, that's I have written not a ton, but I have written a heavy amount more than what I wrote for the backstory for Beyond the Gate.
wow.
And the plan would be like to eventually release a, like, say maybe a special edition of this upcoming album where because the way that you write the story, if you're doing a concept album, sometimes the songs don't flow properly in that order when it's all said and done from front to back as an album for a listener. So I think like a good special edition was maybe to not alter the track listing of the album, but to put out at least like some liner notes or maybe like an extra little book with the story, and then go into the lyrics for part one of that story. And then, yeah, I've got storyline in between every single song for this one.
That's crazy.
Sorry.
That's really in depth, man. That's huge props to you. That's awesome. That's super cool.
I did sorry to
No, you were
say
fine.
this,
Go right ahead.
I did with this idea, this story, I did do a lot of character developments. Like I wrote all my characters out, what their personality traits would be, their attributes. I did world building as well, like all these different spots on the map, like where all these characters are, where Malus is, and where Malus is becomes eventually in the story for Beyond the Gate.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's all eventually going to tie together, hopefully, fluidly.
Okay. So the EP, is that what's been recorded, or is it a full album? I know you mentioned the EP.
The EP.
Are you allowed to say? I don't want to get you in trouble with the guys or Metal Blade. You're just like,
I'm not going to give away as too much.
Okay.
The EP was a previous thing. That was something that had been written several years ago, actually, the music for it. And I just came in and just put my stuff to it. We were initially wanting to do that as the next release, but in speaking with Metal Blade, they put it into perspective for us that, sometimes when bands release an EP, it kind of it uses up some of the steam they may have to putting that energy into a full album. So what is coming is, and all I'm going to say about the upcoming album is going to be a full length. It's going to be the longest album that Wretched has done to date, because we've been out for about 10 years. I mean, it's been 10 years since Cannibal came out, and we need to give people a little more for those that have actually been waiting.
Okay.
And hopelessly waiting. I've seen a lot of comments. Like even like they announced a new album back in like 2018 or something like that, and I literally the other day I saw on Reddit somebody's comment on, Wretched announced that they're going to do a new album, but a lot of time has passed, so I don't think it's ever going to happen. It's happening, and hopefully everybody's going to dig it. We're taking a step in a different direction. not like fully. We're kind of dropping the death from the name or from the title. So we just kind of want to go with being a metal band. I mean, it's still heavily harsh vocals, still guitar solos, a rad instrumental. It's just, I think we're all incredibly proud of what we've done with this new release that you guys are going to hear hopefully within the next 6 months to a year. And I know that I texted Marshall, and I know I said it to the guys face to face at least once or twice, that I am so proud to just even be a part of this, because the music is, I love it. There's one song that put me into a spot mentally. You ever seen Jim Henson's Labyrinth?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when Sarah takes a bite out of the poison peach that Hoggle gives her, that Jareth had, bade him to do. And there's one song that I just kept listening to over and over again. And I was just like, why is this familiar? And there's no similarity whatsoever to it. But that song, As the World Falls Down, that David Bowie wrote for that film, in that masquerade ball hallucination, it just put me in there. Like, it's beautiful. Like, it's just, I'm freaking pumped.
I'm excited to hear it. You're pumping me up.
Oh, yeah.
So
good.
Full metal album. We have cleans in there at all? Are we doing any kind of cleans anywhere?
There's going to be some, I'll just say there's some stuff that you're not going to expect from us, given the nature of the past 4 releases.
Okay.
I think we're gonna surprise a lot of people. We may turn some people off that have been fans from the start. Hopefully
How did Metal
not.
Blade like it with you guys kind of transitioning a little bit?
They haven't heard it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we want to give them the final, like when that comes in the next couple of weeks. We want them to hear it the way that it's gonna be.
Yeah. No rough stuff. You want it all like
polished. Yeah, and they've been super cool about that. And they're like, no rush, get it to us when you do. Like, awesome. they're so freaking chill, man. They're fans of the music, man. That's what makes them so great, is the ball's in our court. It's up to us what to do with it, and we're not going to drop it.
How long has Metal Blade been around? Since the 90s? No, maybe even before that one. They've been around for a long time.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Wow, that long?
Yeah. Brian Slagle founded Metal Blade, and I mean, he put out some of Metallica's earliest stuff and Slayer's earliest stuff.
Oh wow!
So I mean, that's
such an iconic label. Really?
Yeah, and such an honor to be on it too. Like I said, man, that was the goal from the start, and that was our goal when we got back together, and we just kind of manifested it. We put it out there, and then we started, touching on connections and stuff like that, and seeing who we could talk to, and we found our way, man.
Dude, that's
we found
awesome,
our way
man.
to it.
That is super awesome. I want to ask, because every time I ask about the personal and the conceptual, is it, and I feel like the answer is going to be no, it's easy for you to get into it, since you've put so much of yourself and like how much you've built this story. But for conceptual, is it harder for you on stage to like get into it and get like, as you would like a personal
thing,
really. Like you said, like we're going to use the generic breakup. You have a breakup and you're kind of amped up about it, and then you get a little more fiery on stage, if you will. Conceptual, I'm gonna say it's not hard for you to get into it since you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, man, because I put myself into the character. And I had somebody, we played at it was the White Rabbit in San Antonio, Texas. It's no longer called the White Rabbit, but I remember getting off stage and one person told me, he was just like, I don't know what you're saying, but it looked like you were telling me the most important thing that I was ever going to hear in my entire life. And I was just like, that's wonderful. But no, man, I put myself into it mentally. Like when I was writing this album, this newest one that's coming out, I immersed myself too deep into it, like to the point where like every time I would finish a song, before I started the next one, maybe the next day, because I would only allow myself like one song per day. And some of them took a little longer than that because of it, but I would immerse myself so deep into it, put myself into the shoes of this character. Like when I would come to writing that next song, I would just start at the beginning and I would work my way through the story to prepare myself for that next chapter in the story. And sometimes it would put my mind in an incredibly dark place. Like I was at the very beginning of this year, I just started feeling real messed up in the head. So I had to put it to rest for a little bit just to get my bearings back, get myself back together before I revisited. But then when I did revisit, then it started flowing out like a freaking waterfall.
Okay, nice. And I'm excited. You're pumping me up for it, man. I'm
man.
I'm stoked to hear it.
Yeah, it's like it's I love to talk about shit like this, like stuff that makes me passionate, stuff that I'm proud of, you know. Never say that I'm bragging, because I don't like to do that. I love to just share. Like if somebody wants to talk to me about something I love, you damn well better believe that I'm going to talk your ear off about it.
I love the comment about someone saying, "I don't know what you're saying," and then the compliment.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard that over the years doing metal?
Only once. Like that one guy told me that. Like just that was the first and only time I've heard somebody say that or anything to the likes of that.
I just love when people that don't listen to metal would listen to like stuff we've done or hear a band I'm into or anything, and they're just like, I have no clue what they're saying, but that sounds cool. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
all right.
That's also another thing that I've tried to tap into with this new album. Because I mean, you know, metal vocals can sometimes get a little mushy.
Mm-hmm.
You've gotta speak. Like do it like you're speaking, like you want to be heard clearly. So we put a major focus on that for the recordings for this new album.
Hell yeah.
So I'm really pumped. And I mean, I know what I'm saying, but I mean, even when the guys hear it, they hear what I'm saying now. Like before it was just like, what are you saying in this part? Oh, that sounds really cool. What are you saying in this part? Oh, that's awesome. Now they can actually hear what I'm saying. Like it goes in the ear and your brain comprehends it.
Hell yeah.
And that's very important, I feel, with metal, because you got to get your point. If you're trying to get your point across, or if you're passionate about something like I am with the story that I've written, I want people to even if they're not reading the lyrics, I still want them to get the story. I want them to hear it, whether they connect with it or not, or whether they think, oh man, that's really rad. What is this? And then, because I mean, for the longest time, people didn't even know that Beyond the Gate was a concept album. And I'm sure that people aren't going to see this, and a year or two, maybe more, is going to go by, and they're not going to understand that this next one is a concept album. But it is, and I love it, and I hope everybody else does.
You're talking about enunciation. That was one of the things Tim said is he feels that's more brutal when you're getting your point across and people understand, like, hey, this is what I'm saying here with passion compared to just noises.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm stoked, man. All right, so back to lyrics. Do you have a favorite lyricist? Do you have someone that you look up to, or you're like, man, they're a genius?
Trevor Strnad, for damn sure. Rest his soul. I
was always a massive fan of his high range.
Yeah, dude.
So good.
His eyes they're piercing and crushing, and like his ability to go from super high to like those guttural lows with like the snap of a freaking finger, man. It's just such a wonderful vocalist.
And I love I don't know what you call it, the magician or the wizard hand. He would always be like casting a spell on you.
Casting spells.
Yeah, I loved it.
So beautiful. Trevor Strnad for damn sure. Also Casey Crescenzo from The Deer Hunter.
Okay.
Just because I mean everything that The Deer Hunter, like they've got. Have you listened to them?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, yes. Yeah. So they've got like their Act 1 album, and then they've gotten up to Act 5. I don't think Act 6 is. Hopefully, Act 6 will come out. But yeah, he's got that concept story. The that's one of the things that made me want to do a concept album in the first place. We were tracking the first album out with Jamie King, and we were staying with one of our friends, Woody, at the time, and he was just started asking me, hey, what kind of music do you listen to? So then I started listing off all the stuff that's not metal that I listen to. And so he loaded me up with a bunch of stuff, and The Deer Hunter was one of them. And so I got into that, and then I just kept listening to it. And they put out a new album, I'd buy it immediately. And the concept treatment that he gave that series of albums really inspired me to do what I'm doing now.
Okay. Nice. Do you do anything special before doing vocals in the studio? Or is it pretty much the same routine as if you're going to play a show?
It's pretty much the same, yeah. Just doing the throat stretches.
Okay.
I don't really go wild with the body stretches because I'm just kind of standing, stagnant in one spot during that time period. And yeah, just I did drink a lot of coffee this last time, which I am going to, and it didn't seem to do anything too detrimental to my projection or the quality.
Yeah.
I know that caffeine is supposed to, so next time I think I'm gonna try and sorry, I gotta chill. Next time I'm gonna try to maybe stray away from that and see how it sounds without, and if there's no difference, awesome. If it sounds better the other way, awesome. I'll go back to drinking coffee while tracking vocals. If it sounds better without it, then even better.
Okay. All right. So back to lyrics. Do you have a favorite lyric? Now, this is a really hard question. And obviously there's different points in your life where, bands affect you different, lyrics affect you different. This can be your own lyric or it can be another band. So I know other bands can be really tough. So you can do either or if you have one ready from another band or yourself.
Can I do both?
Yeah, you absolutely. I do it both ways just because on the spot, if you ask people, a lot of times they're like, discography in the brain, you start going through everything, you're just like, oh shit, there's so much.
Yeah. This is kind of an interesting one. It's weird. I'd really like, even if it ends in disaster, like vocalists when they foreshadow things, like for instance, James Lynn Straits, prior to his death, he was busy tracking vocals for the next Snot album, and one of those songs that did ultimately get finished with his vocals is called Absent, and it's on the Straight Up compilation. With every single song is Snot music except for LaJean from Seven Dust doing Angel's Son. That was his gift to Lynn's mother. And then it's a variety of like the new metal vocalists that they had become like super tight with throughout the years. On Absent, he does a bit of foreshadowing. I personally feel there's a line that he says, "Watch our records soar as you slow down to buy the accident." And I mean, that came out posthumously. So it's like, fuck, like what was going on in his mind? Yeah. So that one always kind of hit me. That one hit me. That one stuck with me for a while. Personal lyrics, I really dig some of this. I love a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past. Like there's certain spots that being put on the spot, since they're so old, I can't really come up with something, but pertaining to new lyrics, going against the grain here and what others may want, at least I'm not playing new music for you guys. And I'm not going to tell you song titles. That can wait. There's, going back to a question you said before, on do I mix some personal stuff with concept and vice versa. This album I think what put me in such a dark space during the creation of this was the fact that I was implementing bits of myself and, for lack of a better word, some of the trauma that I've been through in the past recently, whatever it was. So there's one lyric that is, "She's in paradise while I succumb to the perfect choices I am constantly making," more so in the sense of like breakup. It's like the person that has just like things didn't work out with, in your mind, they're out there having a great life and most likely are. Yet you're the one in shambles. And with the perfect choices I am constantly making is a bash at myself to get myself in line to stop fucking up and stop letting people walk all over me. Stop letting people take advantage of me. Start saying no. Boundaries are very important. I didn't mean to go so into that one.
That's awesome. That's a strong line.
I figured I should give some context to the content. And then another one is the sky has gone, yet the clouds have never faded. A weight off the minds of those sojourned, parading glances at the sights to never be seen again, once more upon this eternal flat circle. That's to give some context to that. Eternal Flat Circle, absolutely inspired by the first season of True Detective with Time is a Flat Circle.
Great show.
So yeah, once that popped into my mind, because sometimes when I write lyrics, like I will literally start with a word, or I'll hear a part and I'll just literally in my mind, a phrase will just appear. And I'm just like, does this work? Do these words work? They sound cool. They sound like they do. And then I use this, the thesaurus to assure myself. And they ultimately usually do end up working. I don't know why some of this stuff pops into my brain, but it does. But yeah, that's that line is more along the lines of when you're trapped in the space between life and death, and you're so sure that nothing is after. That's where parading glances at the sights to never be seen again comes into play. You're in your mind, you're like, everything you've seen, your life is flashing before your eyes. You're never going to see this stuff again. But then the line, once more upon this eternal flat circle, that is to say, like, if you do believe that time is a flat circle and the Big Bang expands and then sucks you back in and then just repeats again, like everything has happened before and will happen again, to have the thought of, I'm never going to see this again, and then you just don't know it. It's just it's a weird trick on the mind. I don't know. It makes sense to me.
I like it. So I want to take a detour. You brought up True Detective.
Please. Yeah.
True Detective. I really enjoy the show. Season 1, my favorite season by far.
Absolutely.
Did you watch the 100%. Most recent season, and did you like it? I know this has nothing to do with metal vocals, but this is
no, dude. I did. I watched it with my roommates Thorin and Jordan, and I think we all we enjoyed it to a point.
Yeah,
I think the ending was a little like,
it was rushed.
Yeah,
and
it was.
Yeah, it was really good for most of it, and then at the end it was just kind of flat and rushed, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm easy to please when it comes to entertainment. Yeah, I mean, it's like I love Lord of the Rings, and I also happen to be one of those Lord of the Rings fans that loves Rings of Power. I saw just a small clip of somebody on a podcast saying, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is art. Rings of Power is entertainment. Look at it that way. Yeah. And also take into consideration that everything that they wanted to do, everything that, especially when it comes to an adaptation, everything that, the creators of said adaptation may want to do, they may not be able to do because they don't have the rights to certain material. I know some people will say, then you shouldn't make it at all. I am of the mind that I'm just happy to have something. And man, like I said, I'm easy to please. So some people will go to a movie and say, oh, that was dog shit. And I'm just like, no, I liked it.
So with all the fantasy and everything, I take it, are you a big reader? Do you read a lot?
I prefer audiobooks.
Okay, I'm the same. I'm the world's worst reader. My attention span, I just, I do too many things at once.
Yeah. I scan, I will literally scan, pages. And come to and realize I haven't been paying attention to what I'm reading. And then I have trouble going back and finding where I was. And then when I find where I was, then I have to like really focus and hone in to do it. I find that audiobooks are much easier for me to pay attention to, especially if there's a good reader. Let's go the route of Harry Potter. That entire 7-book collection, the audiobooks are done by a guy named Jim Dale. Super entertaining, does fantastic with the voices, and maintains it throughout the entirety of every single book. Yeah, just the entertainment of that is very important to me. I mean, I've heard audiobooks where I wasn't sold by the reader, and it's really hard for me to maintain my attention to. So yeah, that's really what it boils down to on that. I mean, I love books.
What do you listen to? Like, what are you into? I mean, you mentioned Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. I'm assuming with the context
stuff.
of like the albums and all, you like fantasy and like all that kind of stuff, correct?
I mean, I like a lot of stuff, man. My mom, when she was alive, her favorite author was Stephen King, and so she bought me The Stand, or she gave me her copy of The Stand. I started reading it, but then trailed off.
Yeah.
So I've recently, like within the past several years, I've listened to The Stand on audiobook. Fantastic. I listened to it. Congo.
That's a short one. That's a short story. It. Tiny story, not long at all.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, that's not like 50 something hours of listening time. Jurassic Park is fantastic. I was actually having this conversation of comparing it to the film, and specifically the scene in the film where Dennis Nedry gets assaulted by the Dilophosaurus. If you haven't read that book, I'm not going to tell you what happens in the book, but it is much more gruesome and very, very frightening.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so sick. It's so sick. And The Lost World as well. Michael Crichton is fantastic. That man did so much research when it came to what he put into his books. I mean, I know he was smart as hell. He had to be, for like all the science and everything that he put into what he was doing, which encourages me as well. Like, doing research on sorcery and like D&D terms and Dungeon Crawl Classic terms, implementing that stuff into my writing as well. That's all more fun stuff. I mean, I'd rather study those things than a book on science. Yeah. So good thing I'm not writing books like that or lyrics like that.
Do you play D&D at all, or have you ever played D&D?
Oh, we do DCC, so Dungeon Crawl Classics. The rule set is a little more lenient.
Okay.
Right now, we are in the process of going through a campaign. Myself, my roommate Thorin, who was named after the dwarf.
Okay.
From The Hobbit.
That's awesome.
Birth name. We're going through the One Ring campaign right now that's based on the Lord of the Rings around the time that the trilogy is going on. So we're running through that. Sometimes we'll bounce to like the Alien RPG. I know he recently got the Terminator rule set and some of the modules for that. I've heard that it's not the greatest, but we're going to play it anyways because we want to. And yeah, stuff like that. And he's written his own modules as well. Like this right here, this red one, and then this one. Those are the original art for Sky of Crimson Flame.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna just look up Sky of Crimson Flame and Thorin Thompson. But yeah, it's first print cover on the top, and then the red one is the second print cover. He's done a module based on this isn't a plug for my best friend, I promise. But he did one module that was based on a horror film called The Stuff. If you haven't seen that, check it out. It's rad. And that one was really fun too. Yeah. So we just do a lot of play testing for him before it gets published to Goodman Games, and then just enjoy ourselves as much as we possibly can.
That's awesome. That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to music and vocals. We detoured. Sure. That's my fault, but I mean, it's all part of it.
Like I said, man, fluid conversation. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. So, tips for new songwriters as far as like lyrically, patterns, rhythmatic flow, all that good stuff. Do you have any tips for for songwriters starting out?
To touch back on what we said before, don't try to sound like your favorite vocalist. Do not try to emulate. Try to break away from that mold. Do something that you want to do, and take your time with it. If there's anything that I've learned about writing lyrics, like for Exodus and Beyond the Gate, I wrote all of those lyrics predominantly in a 1 to 2 week span. So I didn't have time to edit and to fine tune everything. So yeah, spend your time with it. Give yourself, if you have the time to do it, to take that time, utilize it.
Okay.
Just that way you can edit the way that you want. That way you can make it fit perfectly, because you can go back and listen to something that's been recorded that's out there forever now, and just be like, I wish I'd have done something different with that part. I wish I wouldn't have packed so many words into that. I wish I'd have put more into that. I wish I'd have done vocals here this way instead of doing vocals here that way. Just do what feels right. Do what you can feel like you can control. Don't overdo it. And if you're writing something and you're practicing out and you can't get your breathing right with it, tone it back. Because if you can't do it live, it's a really, really tough thing to sell. Yeah. Backing vocals can only take you so far.
I feel like that's one thing all vocalists have to learn. Is like, this may sound really cool in the studio when you can like cut here, like let me just punch in this part or whatever. But when you're doing it live and you're like, damn, I don't have time to breathe. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this.
Absolutely.
It's rough. Awesome. Super awesome. Okay. So do you have a favorite song or part to perform live as far as like vocally? And flip side, because we all know there's parts that we write, like I just said, you write some in the studio, and then when it comes time to do it live, you're like, shit, I did not think this through. This sucks a little bit live. Let me get through it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like when we were tracking vocals for Beyond the Gate, Steven was like, dude, are you going to be able to do this stuff live? And I was just like, I got this. And I mean, it was a struggle at first, but then I found the right pockets to where I could take those sips of breath and, get myself right. When it comes to favorite stuff to play live, Fetal Consumption is always killer because of the crowd reaction. I love it. It's fast. It's quick. It's usually the crowd pleaser. Recently, Cranial Infestation has become a very fun one. It's just so chill. It's a jam, and it's Andrew and my dance number. So, and we have a lot of fun with that one live.
Okay. How was it getting back to performing after such a long break from 2010 to now, essentially for you? When was the first show back? 2022, 2021?
2023. So last October at First in Flight. It was brutal. Like I
know
said,
you said you got shot right away. So
after the first song, I was done.
How did your voice feel? Was it rusty?
It was fine. I was just incredibly winded for about 20 minutes after we had finished. But yeah, it may have been a little rusty. I didn't really notice because I was too exhausted. But I absolutely learned my lesson from that. But when we went back out in May, it took a few nights for us to all like get in the groove of it. But I gotta say, man, from night one, I was having the time of my life out there. It was like I should have never left.
Nice. So you're talking about playing shows after a while. I talked with Brian Fair of Shadows Fall a couple weeks ago, and he was mentioning, he's getting close to 50, and he was like getting ready to go on stage and play a show, and he was like, and screaming in your car or screaming can only get you so far to get ready, especially when like you want to be super energetic. He went and did like this whole extensive workout with like dumbbells, and he would like carry him around, do all this stuff while screaming to get ready.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was like a madman with it. I was like, that's really damn impressive. He was like, oh yeah, I finished an hour-long set and was like, I could do another one. I was like, that's super impressive. I think it was
I would love to
Rockville in Florida, I think, is where he said they played. And he was like, everybody's melting, and I was just like, I'm good. And I was like, dude, that was insane.
Yeah. I would say core. Strengthening your core is very important. That was the first thing to go for me. That was what hurt me the most when we did this most recent run. And it was like when we got to the end of it, that's when everything started feeling fine and we were all like in it. But yeah, strengthening the core, that was something that I know that's something that I know that I need to strengthen moving forward. It wasn't as tough as it could have been had I not learned my lesson back in October of throwing my body around. Because now I know I can't do that. I mean, if I get my core strength and, I towards the end of the run, I was able to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
I had to like pepper it in. But yeah, it's just getting yourself right ahead of time so that you don't have to work yourself into it. Because yeah, I'd love to be at 50 and be able to go for another hour. That would be so sick.
That's crazy. I mean, I was just like, dude, that's wild. All right. So I wanted to ask, when you're writing songs, do you, it seems like the general consensus, most people do patterns first. You'll hear the song, the riff, everything, the drums, and you'll be like, all right, not necessarily lyrics here, but just like maybe just, inaudible noises. Like it wants to be like la, 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 whatever. And then you fit the lyrics. Is that how you do it, or how do you approach when you're piecing things together?
I'll usually start at the beginning of the song. Like I'll listen to it several times through, get myself very familiar with it, and I'll know what I want, like in certain spots and how I want them to sound. But when I actually come to writing that out, I never write out like the pattern of what it will be. I have that pattern committed to my memory already. And I'll just start with one word, and that's where I'll take the song, and I'll just write from there and fill in the gaps as needed.
Okay, nice. All right. So this next question,
I have an odd approach.
No, that's awesome.
I have an interesting approach.
I like it though. That's one of the reasons I really like doing this in this series and this podcast and everything is because it's the answers are so vastly different. There is definitely similarities like across the board, with everything, but how you approach things are different than how Tim approaches things and vice versa.
Yeah.
Routines, warm-ups, lyrics, everything. It's really, to me, interesting. As a person that grew up, I was always big into behind-the-scenes stuff and band documentaries and everything. Like, I always loved all that. So this would be something I would be super into just listening to myself. So, all right. So this next question is really weird. And there is rhyme and reason behind why it's weird. And I pretty much say this every episode, but I'm kind of taking this from Kyle from Body Snatcher because he's kind of the inspiration. Well, actually, it will be him and Adam D from Killswitch.
Right.
And I like to ask favorite call out that you do, if you have a favorite call out. Now, some, it's just pretty much just straight on, just let's go. Are you there? Let's get right. Like normal shit. But some like to take it just a little bit extra and say just the most off the wall shit at crazy times. Kyle and Adam D, just stuff that you're just like, what the hell just happened? What did they just say? And then people just go crazy. And
I don't really do any like wild call outs like that. What I do ultimately end up doing is I'll ask say for instance, at one of our last shows, I just ask, hey, we got any Battlestar Galactica fans out there? I'll just ask them random stuff like that. And just to we're up there having fun, and that's what we want to do. So it's just like, I try not to take it way too seriously. But I take it serious enough.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So just saying simple stuff like that, making jokes. We started doing this thing on the last run that I would ask Andrew how the crowd is doing. And he was just like, oh, you guys are great. And then we're just commending the crowd and we're giving them a round of applause. It's fun stuff, man. Like, I want everybody that comes to our shows to feel like we're all friends and we're just hanging out and we're at a house party together and we're just having a damn good time.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so we're kind of in the weird question portion of the show.
keep it
Because
keep it weird, man.
we have the normal stuff that kind of covers the bases, and then we get weird for some reason, just because curveballs. But
you gotta add character.
All right, this one is kind of a sports influence question. Do you have any weird or any, just not necessarily weird, but even just whatever, normal pre-show or studio rituals? And the context behind that, a lot of times athletes will have superstitious things they'll do before they play. You know, maybe they wear a certain pair of socks, or they have to eat this, or they have to do this before anything. And I've got all kinds of answers from push-ups. Apparently that's one of the more normal ones. I think Tim actually said he does push-ups before the studio just to get the blood flowing.
Gotcha.
And then just stuff like that. So it's been everything from like just a fist bump with the band, like, all right, let's go kill it tonight, to whatever. So it's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think we really have any pre-show rituals like that. It'd be really cool to like start the quack 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 thing like they do in the Mighty Ducks, but
you guys should totally do that.
Yeah, I know. On stage in front of people.
Yeah.
No, man, I think we're just kind of out there doing our own thing. Like, we converge when we need to. And I mean, we're pretty much, before we go up on stage, we're just hanging out. We're having a good time and doing our own, exercises amidst each other. And then just being like, all right, guys, let's get the fuck out there and do this. It's just...
Yeah, okay. Like I said, it's a weird one.
Yeah.
You get all kinds of... Some people are like, no, we don't really do anything. Some are like, yeah, I have to do this before every time. Non-vocal related.
Yeah. But that question gives, me the incentive to, push that quack quack thing on the rest of the guys.
I want to see it. You guys come to Nashville. I want to see the quack quack.
Oh, yeah.
All right, awesome.
We'll all be wearing jerseys as well.
Oh my god, dude! You guys will
be
wearing
the effing hockey jersey.
I know. There is absolutely no way I could do that.
Dude. No, dude. So the job I'm on right now, I've always been like, I'm not wearing shorts until I got my legs tattooed, because I've got too much Irish in me, and that's my skin everywhere else. But I did just recently buy a bunch of shorts because, just speaking of like burning up, I went through the first week wearing denim and like chino pants out, and we're just outside all day. And I was just like, fuck this. And I bought several pairs of shorts for the first time in 15 years. And my legs are destroyed because of it, because I neglected to allow myself to be comfortable outside in the heat for so long.
All right. I definitely understand that. My wife is the opposite. She will turn red for a minute and then she tans, and I just roast.
Yeah. See, the interview, it's all the weird part.
Well, I mean, that's what makes this great, though. We just kind of just turn everywhere.
Absolutely, yeah, man. It's rad.
Keeping it weird, do you have any weird or fun tour stories? Because like you said, we're in that portion.
So there was one time we were playing in Kansas City, and we went, playing in Kansas City, and they had this fucking big ass event going on in their big center, in their city center, whatever the hell it is. Like, there's tons of restaurants and bars and a giant stage in there. Buckcherry was playing that night, and John Vale, who is, consistently a member of Wretched, he was just like, oh, can you guys please pack up my stuff after the show, because I really want to run up there and go see Buckcherry. And so we were just like, yeah, that's fine. And that was like way before we even played. But prior to our set, we went there with another guy, and I'm not going to drop his name, but he was just like, we're going to get some VIP shit. I can do this. So we went to a restaurant. He tried it. He was just like, yeah, we're on tour with Buckcherry. The guys, it's one of their off days, so we're playing up the road, and we were just seeing if there could be like some VIP treatment or some shit. Nobody was falling for it. Then we went to this one bar that was like super clubby club, and the DJ was all about it. And so we showed up after the show, not thinking that anything was going to come of it. We walk in, the guy remembers us, and he's just like, "Yo, Wretched in the house!" And then so we all start dancing. You know, me with my white boy rhythm, not having it. It looked horrible, but he kept getting us shots, the DJ, and then. This is probably not good for me to tell the world, but whatever. But it's not that bad. But then, you know, the point came where he was just like, "Yo, Wretched, y'all owe me a shot." And then we went back up to the bar with our buddy who pulled all this together as our tour manager, who wasn't even our tour manager. And he he was just like, "Yeah, DJ said he wants some more shots on him for all of us. So we all get shots of Rumple." And he's just like, "All right, guys, go." So then we book it. And yeah, that was pretty fun. It's entertaining. I mean, it's definitely one of those you had to be there moments, but in my mind, I'm reliving it as I'm telling it. As you can see, I'm just kind of chuckling. It was just such a stupid situation, but so hilarious and so memorable at the same time.
I love asking that because you get to see you guys like relive the moment. Like you said, chuckling yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's fun to watch you guys relive these fun wild
Yeah,
moments.
dude.
Did
It's
you
fun
have
to go back. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite, or we'll say not a favorite? Do you have some bands that you were trying not to say favorite to like single people out? Yeah, the tour with.
Did we have like? Did I have any really cool experiences with certain bands? Yeah, there's
yeah, because you don't want to say, I don't want to make it like a MySpace top 8 situation where it's like, oh, this is my favorite bands. You know, the rest of you guys. Yeah.
I mean, Within the Ruins was always super cool to tour with. It was so fun. There were so many experiences with those guys that I'm not gonna ever tell.
I'm sure.
And there was another band called From All Within.
Okay.
That we played with. I don't remember exactly where they're from, but we did a tour with them, and that was super rad. And I believe that they later ended up calling them, taking on the moniker Dead Ships. The band Antagonist, it was super fun touring with them. Discreet was awesome. The first full U.S. tour we actually went on was with Kill Whitney Dead and The Demonstration.
Oh man, that's a band I haven't heard in forever. The Demonstration or Kill Whitney Dead.
Yeah, dude, that was so fun. That was an entertaining time for damn
Kill Whitney Dead had all the clips. They had so many clips in there.
So many so many movie clips in that. Yeah, it's just it was their fucking it was their method, and it worked for them for sure.
Nice. Demonstration, that's another one. I used to listen to a lot of Demonstration. Remember them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were damn good, man. They were going down that southern metal route, like similar to Maylene and stuff like that, and they were doing it very well, and they just didn't continue. I mean, you know how it is. You know, people get married and have children, and
life happens. Pretty much.
Life gets in the way of life. Yeah. But I mean, it's not always a bad thing, though. You know, for me, not necessarily the route I want to go down right now, because I feel like there's some really cool stuff happening, and I don't want to take away from that right now. I'm being selfish, but it's okay. I got nobody to not be selfish with. So, hey, here I'm at.
So during the break, 13 years, correct?
Yeah, the 13.
Did you still do vocals? Hiatus. Did you still practice any? Were you just like not doing anything? I'm done with this.
Not really. Like I would sometimes do something. There were some Wretched shows where when Adam was doing the vocals for them, like I jumped on stage at a place in Tremont when they were opening up for, I believe they were opening up for Scapegoat, which was a really sick band from the Charlotte area back then. I jumped up, I did a song with Adam, and which he seemed to be happy about. And then when they played again at Amos's several years later, I think maybe 2016 or 2016 or 2017, I jumped up and I did, I think, like 2 or 3 songs with them. So in between the end of 2010 and those 2 shows that I did a total of maybe 4 songs at collectively, fast forward to October of last year, yeah, that was pretty much it. That was pretty much all I did until we did like a little bit of rehearsal stuff before, like, days leading up to the First and Flight Fest.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. So I would be super mad at myself if I didn't ask. You've mentioned BT Bam several times.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite album by them?
Maybe unpopular opinion, but I really freaking dig Alaska.
Okay. Alaska's I would say that's probably my second favorite.
Yeah. Alaska and Colors.
That's,
I mean,
flip them the
yeah.
other way, and that's me.
Yeah.
I wore Colors out. I was way too into Colors.
Dude, I saw them play at Amos's South End in Charlotte when they put that album out. And then I saw them on the 10-year anniversary at the Neighborhood Theater in Charlotte for that same album, playing it all the way through. And I was just like, this sucks. Actually, no, it wasn't. Wait, it wasn't there. No, it was there. It was at Neighborhood Theater. But I did see BT Bam play with the Deer Hunter out in Asheville. That was a weird tour. And they put out like this little like 7-inch where the Deer Hunter covered a BT Bam song and BT Bam covered a Deer Hunter song.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. And I think it may be digital now, but it wasn't for the longest time.
Interesting.
I would definitely check that out because the Deer Hunter does wonderful with the BT Bam song and vice versa.
I might have to look that up. That's crazy.
You should, yeah.
I think I saw I don't know how recent this was, but they were on tour with the Acacia Strain, right? Doing like a something anniversary. I'm not sure what though. I don't want to say like the wrong thing, but I feel like it was an anniversary. It was them two touring. I was like, that is a wild tour. Like those two bands just polar opposites.
It's kind of like what Lamb of God and Mastodon are doing right now. Ashes of the Leviathan tour. It's so sick.
Smart though. These anniversary album tours it sells tickets and it's smart for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's providing a good reason for bands to, if they haven't been in the circuit for a while, to come back.
Yeah.
If only for a few shows or one tour, you know?
There's a lot of I don't want to call it revivals, but just like comebacks lately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands that have kind of not done stuff that I'm seeing them jump on like a Furnace Fest or these different festivals.
Yeah.
And coming back, and that's really cool.
Like It Dies Today, man. Like I don't think I wanted them to disappear when they did, but I know the vocalist, he went and he kind of did his own thing. And I believe it was like more along the lines of a country project. And I guess it didn't work out for him. I believe his name's Nick. And then, yeah, them coming back was surprising for me. And I mean, we got Bleeding Through coming back.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, man, there's so many bands
a lot,
coming
which
back.
I guess you offer enough money and there's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
Totally. Yeah, and then you've got bands like Emery who have been doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
And never stopping. Now when it comes to like Furnace Fest, I think, did Dead Poetic not come back onto that?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if you're familiar with them. They were one of the Solid State bands I discovered on a Near Fatal Fall, one of those compilations. That band, oh my God.
Furnace Fest brings back so many bands.
They really do.
It's crazy how many come back, and they're doing it every year now. It's kind of become like a staple for them. But it is also smart from a band perspective. You go to one of these bigger festivals and bigger crowd, reintroduce them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's definitely from a marketing and everything, a business standpoint, it works. All right. So I have took up way too much of your time, sir. So we are going to move to the portion where you have the floor for aspiring vocalists, people that are, maybe they haven't picked up the mic yet. They're thinking about it. Maybe they have, and they're just kind of getting their feet wet. What kind of advice can you give them as vocalists, as songwriters, whether they want to tour or not? You know, someone that's been on the road, you've traveled, you've done stuff. What kind of advice can you instill upon them?
I've met a lot of aspiring vocalists through my time. I know some of them feel like they're God's gift to Earth, And some of them are like I was when I first started out, super timid, not moving around much, almost afraid to be up there. But those that are the most timid are probably going to be the most successful. So just believe in yourself. If you don't like what you're doing, try something new, change it up, do something different with your voice. If you don't think you can, just try. Like, it's the only limit you have. The only person that is going to stop you from doing anything is going to be yourself. So have fun with it ultimately, and just don't give a fuck what other people think within reason.
There we go.
You know?
Love that. So why the most timid will be successful? Just context. I'm curious. Is it just the arrogance you think from people that think they're
I
like,
think so.
I'm the best ever kind of deal.
And the people that are like that have, like, you know, they give people the worst taste in their mouth, you know? Like, it's just like, no.
You think they don't learn either? Like, they don't evolve?
Yeah,
they're kind of just
some
like
of them
peaked
do.
in a way.
Some of them grow up, so to speak. But I don't know. I think the most timid are the most in their own heads. And I think that's like, your brain is where any creativity is going to stem from. So if you're just overthinking stuff, you obviously got a great imagination, because it's not as serious as you're imagining it to be. So I just think they have more to offer in the grand scheme of things.
Okay.
And for them to just, sometimes you just go through it until you stop being timid, because you'll eventually get to that breaking point where you're just like, I'm tired of being this now. And then you stop giving a fuck. And when you stop giving a fuck, it's very apparent when you start having fun on stage, and then the crowd starts having fun, and you just feed off each other's energy. So, I mean, you could be the most brutal guy up there in the world. But if you're up there dancing around and just like making a fool of yourself and laughing at yourself, and you don't, that's in itself I don't give a fuck. And then the other people will laugh too, and they're not laughing at you, they are literally laughing with you, and then you're all having fun together. Just live life or don't, in the words of Christopher Becker.
Nice, very nice. And if you're not having fun, they're not gonna have fun, and then it's just
exactly
it's not a good experience. All in all. Awesome. So I will have Wretched's links down below for everybody to check out. Go listen to it. Spotify, all that good stuff. I want to give you the floor. Plug whatever you want to plug. If it's even your roommates, your stuff, whatever you want to plug, this is your opportunity.
Just going to do something real short. I want to give a shout out to, and this is in no particular order, only in the order of alphabetical last names, Reagan Dixon, Danny Pizzuti, and Thorin Thompson. You guys are three of my best friends in the world. And if it weren't for each of you, no matter if you know it or not, I may not be breathing right now. So thank you for being with me and loving me for me. Look at that.
Whoa.
That,
what are you
yeah, I know. Crazy friggin' iPad shit, man.
I was about to say, wow, you had that planned like perfectly. I'm super impressed.
I don't know what there. Yeah, see, there we go. We just got weird stuff with iPad.
I was like, damn, that's a first. You had that like,
dude,
perfectly.
No. Yeah, it does seem that way. It does seem that way.
Those that are listening will never see it. You'll have to go to YouTube and watch the amazingness this happen. Like it.
Yeah.
All
That's
right,
fantastic.
sorry. Well, thank you so much for being on. I've took up way too much
absolutely.
of your time.
No. It was a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate it, and you have a great one.
You as well, dude.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Yes, we will.
All right. Later, man.
Later.
Thank you all so much for watching or listening to this episode of Behind the Vocals featuring Billy Powers of Wretched. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed chatting with Billy. It was fantastic. I had such a great time. Please be sure to check out Wretched, the link down below to the Spotify. Go show them some love and keep an eye out for future Wretched announcements, shows, as well as maybe music. Hope you have a great one. Thanks for listening, watching, and I'll see you guys and gals on the next one.